4 o'clock. We'll bring this meeting to order. If we could all rise. Commissioner Todicini is going to pray for us today.
I'm going to say that it's like our Father in Navajo. Creator and Supreme Being, give us guidance and protection to make decisions for the welfare of the county and quality of life. Protect and keep safe those in law enforcement, fire rescue, volunteers, and county citizens. We pray for our state, our nation, and the world. Bless the babies and children. Keep them safe. We thank you for the autumn weather, harvest, and blessing each day. We thank you, dear Lord. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Lanier, will you read us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All of the events of your televising in addition to Korean and Denver, from Omaha to Cedarville, Kansas, to Navajo.
Commissioner Sullivan, we can still hear stuff coming through on the mic. Is there any way that you could turn that off? Is there anybody else's mic? Yes, that's better. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. It looks like item number 4 or area number 4, we need to go into the Board of Finance. I'll stand for a motion.
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, not hearing any, will be in the Board of Finance. Brings us to item number 1, a report of county investments and interest earned. Carol Paulby.
Hi there, members of Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Good afternoon. You have your staff summary in front of you, so I'm going to spare us all reading it and struggling through all of the verbiage on it. So I'd just like to highlight a few of the items. County investments earned $688,891, which is 32.34% less than last year. FY20 was, of course, our banner year. We made $1 million, and although we earned less interest, we are currently tracking close to the FY 2017 and FY 2018 totals. The return on investment decreased from 2.23% in FY 2020 to 1.88% in FY 2021, which is still higher than FY 19, and it was actually less invested dollars. Cash and investments as of June 30th were $65 million, and with the adjustments netted to $62.5 million. This has steadily declined over the past several years and can be attributed to the spending down of the 2015 bond series and the significant reduction in oil and gas receipts. There was a slight uptick in May-June with the receipt of the ARPA funds. Yay. So I don't anticipate any problems with cash flows other than how to invest. I attended an investment conference last week, and the forecast for future interest rates is really pretty bleak. I'm going to have to do some research and just kind of look around and see if I can figure out what to do and where to go with it. We're changing our lockbox collection provider. Currently, we use Wells Fargo lockbox in Denver. We are switching to Bank of Albuquerque with an actual New Mexico address. Our constituents are going to love that. We received an earnings credit from Wells Fargo at 50 basis points on our cash invested or cash balance. And so that's going to kind of skew how I'm doing things now. And it's going to affect, because we could offset with the 50 basis points, we can offset our expenses. So things are going to change a little bit, but I think it's still going to be better overall. We'll have less problems with our receipts. There won't be delays. We've had problems with Wells Fargo in the past with delays. So I think it's going to be a good move overall. At the investment conference, I just received a lot of information, network contacts, and so I'm going to just kind of reach out to them and see if I can figure out how to best proceed going forward. We did have some legislative investment changes the past few years, and our investment policy has not been updated since 2017. So my project over the next couple of months is to get it revised and bring it back to you all so that you can look at it and hopefully. So that's all I have. I'll stand for questions.
Are there any questions? Not hearing any. Thank you. Carol?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll stand for a motion to go out of the Board of Finance and into our regular meeting.
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Not hearing any takes us into our regular meeting. Need to approve the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda, Mr. Starr?
No changes tonight, Mr. Chair.
I'll stand for a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any, I'll assume that it passed unanimously. Takes us to the consent agenda, which is item number 1, consideration of approval for regular meeting minutes of September 7th, 2021. And number 2, consideration of grant agreement 21-F 2855 and 21-F 2849 with New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration. Is there any changes to the consent agenda? If not, I'll stand for a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve the 2 consent agenda items.
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Not hearing any opposition, I'll presume that it passed unanimously. Takes us to our new business, item number 1, consideration of approval of resolution number 21-22-21, adjusting precinct boundaries, presented by our county clerk, Tanya Shelley.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the Commission. Pursuant to New Mexico State Statute, Section 1-3-1-8-1, the county clerk is required to adjust precinct boundaries when 750 or more votes are cast in the precinct in the general election. And this is based on the 2 most recent general elections. So this affected 4 of our precincts. So precinct 1 will now be split into precinct 1 and 130. Precinct 8 will now be split between precinct 8 and 134. Precinct 48 will be split between precinct 48 and 99. And precinct 54 will be split between 54 and 82. The small maps that you have in your packet reflect precincts 48 and 54. Your larger map provided in yellow will reflect your precinct 1 and 130 and precinct 8 and 134. Also, pursuant to New Mexico Statute Section 1-3-12C, the Board of County Commissioners, upon receipt of the standard base maps from the Secretary of State and upon recommendation of the county clerk, shall adjust all precinct boundaries to coincide with the numbered or named street boundaries or suitable visible terrain features shown on the standard base map, provided that the precinct shall be composed of contiguous and compact areas. And state, county, municipal, school district, and other special district or political boundary lines shall serve as precinct boundaries whenever possible. And upon the completion of the precinct boundary adjustments, as required in the section indicated on the standard base maps, the boundaries for both urban and non-urban precincts, and together with a written description of the precincts shall send a electronic copy to the Secretary of State's office for approval. So in your packet, you actually have 4 11 by 17 maps. The first one in purple is current precincts. Each one of them are identified up in the top left-hand corner. So Plan A is green, Plan B is blue, and Plan C is yellow. All of the maps were developed by research and polling. Plan A is an attempt to conform voting precincts to chapter boundaries using census blocks. Plan B is an attempt to conform voting precincts to chapter boundaries using census blocks and visible features. Plan C is an attempt to conform voting precincts to chapter boundaries whenever possible, with a preference for visible terrain features where chapter boundaries do not correspond, and was designed to prevent confusion and error in determining where voters live based on descriptions provided on their voter registrations. I request approval of resolution 21-22-21 and recommend that the commission approve Plan C. And I stand for any questions.
Does anybody have
That's the
any?
yellow plan, right?
Say that again, Commissioner Sullivan.
It'll be the yellow is approving.
Yep, the yellow is.
Chairman and Commissioner Sullivan, yes, it is the yellow plan. Plan C is the yellow map.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Turpin.
some comments. Fellow commissioners, I kind of got involved in this because a lot of it affects my district. And I learned a lot. The Plan A, the chapter boundaries, I learned that there is still a lot of controversy and confusion over chapter boundaries, somewhere overlapping. And I think in one part, a chapter wasn't even included in the boundary.
The chapter house?
The chapter house wasn't included in it. So, I thought that is so strange. So I started to talk with a council delegate, and I said, "Are you aware that there is a chapter boundary map?" And she said there was one in the Navajo Nation Land Department. Then later on, she said, "Oh my goodness, there's a lot of maps." There's a map even by NTUA that does the water lines and the electricity, getting electricity to the chapters. And then I guess when Navajo Nation incorporated what they call the 5 management system, each chapter was supposed to develop they call it a club, community land use plan. And the chapters did their best, using whatever they could with maybe GPS or getting a consultant to determine what their land use plan was. And that's supposed to coincide with chapter boundaries. In some places, again, they're encroaching on other chapters. So when I talked with the council delegate, she said that she was going to talk with the Navajo Nation speaker and see if they could find one map because there's too many maps circulating out there. So as a Navajo voter, I feel like Plan A doesn't quite bring all that information that we as Navajo voters are aware of. But this is chapter boundaries. What we're dealing with here is precincts. And I know that our county clerk and her worker, our Lenta, they've been talking with chapter officials and calling Navajo Nation Land Department. And they did the best that they could to determine, how to set up these precincts so that voters, Navajo voters in my district know how to register, where their precincts are, and when it comes to voting, they can take care of the vote. And I know that in District 1, everyone is quite used to the voting centers. If you come to Farmington and you see a sign that says vote, you say, oh yeah, I gotta vote, because you don't have to worry about finding a place out on the nation. So it's been working very well, and I commend our county clerk for establishing that, because it's easy. And I like the way she says that it's simple and it's consistent. And that's why voters don't get confused, like, I have to go over here to vote, or do I go over there? It's always consistent. So the voters, those that really care about making sure their vote is counted, it's there for them. So I really like the way that Arlinda and our county clerk worked on that. So in looking at this, I know they work so hard, they have to look at numbers and geographical boundaries. And also, a road or a power line. These aren't imaginary lines that she worked with to establish the precincts. And I think the most feasible and workable, that according to our state directive, is what I see Plan C to work. So commissioners, having worked with this, I think that this is a good plan. And I don't know if anybody has any more questions, but if there's no more questions, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Plan C.
Second.
All right, having been moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? I think I have a question or two.
Okay.
In looking at this, first off, we have the requirement to split the precincts if there's 750 or more votes at one polling place. The splitting the precincts, does it first off, does it satisfy that requirement that the state has given us?
Chairman and members of the commission, there's 4 that pertain to that. So the 2 on your smaller map are precinct 48 and 54.
Okay.
And so they're labeled current, like this one's current, precinct 48. And then as you look on the reverse side, you'll see the new portion of that that's broke off and is now 99.
And do these separate these precincts in a way that is long-term looking, outward looking, to where we're not going to have to be splitting them 99 again in 4 years or 2 years?
Chairman, interesting question, because we always do our best to try
We
to.
can't predict where people are going to move or who's going to show up to vote, but
Exactly.
did we take that into consideration?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and the same with 8 and 1?
Chairman, yes.
Okay. And the other question is, in recommending Plan C, and I know you focused on definable lines, whether it be geography or structures or whatever. Why is that important to the county clerk?
Chairman and members of the commission, that's important to our office because we have over 15,000 voters in San Juan County that provide us a description.
The description meaning they don't have a definable address for the U.S. Postal Service.
Chairman and members of the commission, so they'll have a PO box, but they don't actually have like you might, a county road address or a street address. They use descriptions similar to so many miles in a certain direction of a chapter. When they draw maps, they use arroyas, they use power lines, they use visible features, which help us precinct them and make sure that we get them in the right precinct so that when they go to vote, they're voting for the right Senate, the right rep, the right commissioner, and so on. Does that answer your question, Chair?
It does. So that played a large role in you recommending Plan C.
Chairman and members of the commission, of course, that's my duty as county clerk, is to make sure that we get the voters in the correct precincts.
Just out of curiosity, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Sullivan.
Hey, Tanya, where will 14854 be? Is that over in
Yeah, is asking where 48 and 54 are.
Chairman and
okay, is
commissioners.
that in the voting district, or where is that?
Commissioner Sullivan, so precinct 48 is actually going into Farmington. It encompasses Farmington Lake area. And new precinct 99 is a portion broke off of that precinct. We actually used an arroyo right there, and it goes over towards another arroyo, but it encompasses like Mickey Drive. I know a few of the addresses up there in that area specifically, but does that answer your question on precinct 48?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so precinct.
Our district is not, is it?
Say that again, Commissioner Sullivan.
I was wondering if there was any of those districts that encompass ours, those precincts.
Commissioner Sullivan, are you asking if either one of these pertain to your district?
That's right. No?
I'm not 100% sure on precinct 54. It borders Highway 64 and actually encompasses county roads 5295, 5441. Okay. So yeah, south of 64. So it is in your district. So precinct 54 had to be split, and now is precinct 82 was split off of that. So 82 is a new number.
And that's the only precinct. Okay.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, every 10 years we have a census count, right? And this all plays into two, right? Is that correct?
Chairman and Commissioner Totochini, yes. So the normal, and we did this. I came before you in 2019. If adjusting precincts is done prior to the census, then we don't have to use the census blocks. We can we can bring before you our proposal with specific roads or, however, depending on the area, what we feel like works best for the voters. Since this is being brought before you now, the only we don't have as much flexibility. The only thing that we can use is based off of current census laws. Commissioner Totichi, does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Comments? Not hearing or seeing any, there's a pending motion, I believe, to approve Plan C in regards to resolution number 21-22-21. Is that correct? Those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any, I'll presume that it passed unanimously. Thank you. Brings us to item number 2, which is consideration of a build grant with the U.S. Department of Transportation presented by none other than Mike Stark.
None other. I like the introduction. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Exciting day for San Juan County. It's taken us 12 months to get here, but we have a grant agreement from the U.S. Department of Transportation for our build grant. You might recall that that was an application we had put forth with the support of the Navajo Nation. Mr. Trujillo from the Horse is here today. I'm glad he's here to be with us for this momentous day of actually having a grant agreement in place and available for your approval. We had the city of Farmington and lots of other folks, industry here in San Juan County that would like to see a freight rail line from somewhere in the I-40 corridor up to generally within the kind of Farmington area. And of course, the beauty of this build grant is it's going to provide $2 million. It doesn't require a match to have an economic feasibility study that will be completed to examine the freight traffic demand and other factors relevant to the feasibility of a new rail line, an alternatives analysis to identify routing, infrastructure investment that would be necessary, and design options to support the movement of freight from the Four Corners region to a national freight network via connection on the BNSF network that runs down on the I-40 corridor down near the Gallup area. So the expiration date on this grant is October 31st, 2024. Like I mentioned, no match. So that's exciting that we have 100% grant opportunity, and we're all itching to get working on this. And I know Mr. Trujillo will be part of the project team, and we'll have officials from the Navajo Nation, the city of Farmington, industry. We'll have a working group that meets monthly and until first off, our first order of business will be to put together an RFP to find a consultants and engineering firm to assist us with this endeavor, and it's a pretty massive effort. But we are ready to move forward. So staff would recommend approval of this grant agreement before you tonight, and would stand for any questions you might have.
We'll get it spent before 2024.
We're good spending that.
Okay.
No problem there.
Are there any questions?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to hear from Mr. Trujillo, just, in support of this or whatever.
Mr. Trujillo, do you mind stepping up and letting us know what kind of impact this has as far as economic development? I know that's a broad, and I know better than to give you the floor with that broad of a question. Could you briefly describe what it does for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. I'm very happy. It's been a long haul for us, and we've had a lot of naysayers looking at us, wondering what's going to happen here. But what we're looking at here is really an opportunity to jumpstart our community. The Navajo Nation was very forthright back in the 1950s when they first started Four Corners Power Plant. With that start, then came San Juan Power Plant, Choya, Navajo Generating Station, the Quienta Mines, Navajo Mine, La Plata, San Juan, a number of operations started, which began an economic boom here in the Four Corners region. What this is going to be doing for us is this going to be able to help us look at how we begin to look at manufacturing and how do we begin to look at new industry alternatives. Because, for instance, we've been getting a number of proposals. These are cold calls that come into the state of New Mexico. Many of them ask for rail capabilities, and that immediately takes us off the competitive list. So having rail will really assist in bringing economic opportunities here to the region. As Mr. Stark indicated, we've gained substantial support when we put this grant together from Southwest Colorado, from Southeast Utah, from the Navajo Nation, from the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe, from the Southern Ute Tribe. They all came together supporting this effort because everybody sees the power of bringing bulk transportation into the region where we can bring feedstock in and send value-added product out of the area. And most importantly, the reason why I look at this and why Mr. Stark and I are really excited about this is as we go and we connect to the I-40 corridor, that opens the West up all the way to California for markets. It also opens up our ability to get to Albuquerque, from which you go north, you hit Denver, you open up the northwestern part of the United States for markets. You go south, you hit El Paso, you open up not only the southeastern portions of the US, but you open Mexico. This area could easily look at international business development at that point. So again, there are tremendous possibilities here. And again, we're looking forward to partnering with the Navajo Nation, along with the county, in order to see this come to fruition. And we keep moving step by step. We understand people are looking at us and continue to say we've talked about railroad for decades. We're making headway now, and we hope to continue this effort and look to the support of the commission, as well as other entities here in the county to assist us as we move forward. I'm open to any other questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You
Mr.
Thank you
Chair,
very much.
I'd like to make a motion that I guess it's a consideration of the bill grant with the U.S. Department of Transportation.
All right, there's a motion to approve the bill grant.
I'll second that.
Having been moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? Not hearing any, those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Sounds as though all five were in firm, so that motion passes. Takes us to item number 3, which is consideration of Economic Development Administration Adjustment Assistant Grant Submission. Say that fast 10 times. Go, Mike. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commission. Another grant opportunity, actually, another fantastic grant opportunity for San Juan County. The American Rescue Plan Act provided the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration, the EDA, with almost $3 billion for economic development projects across 6 really distinct buckets of funding. And so we've really been analyzing that, working once again with Forset and City of Farmington and partners at San Juan College and others throughout our community to find out what would be the best projects to put forth, specifically with Evan Williams with the Northwest New Mexico COG. They're really the gatekeeper. They work directly with the EDA Austin office. They were actually very helpful for us to secure the grant we received for San Juan Regional Medical Center for upgrades, phone upgrades within their facility, as well as a couple of generators through the CARES Act. And so once again, we've got this opportunity before us. So in reviewing the different EDA grant opportunities, as I mentioned, there's kind of 6 distinct different opportunities and the requirements of those. And working with, as I mentioned, the COG, as well as our EDA Austin rep, Tricia Corbus, and other stakeholders, it was determined it would be best for San Juan County, given that we have an industrial park under our control today, which actually has an industrial building, a 40,000 plus square foot industrial building on it. that could use some improvements to enhance the offering that we have up there. We are suggesting that we apply for a grant specific to improvements at that facility. You might recall we acquired that facility back in 2007 from BHP Billiton as they were ceasing operations at the La Plata mine. It was a mine that provided coal to San Juan Generating Station. And we immediately had it occupied on a 10-year lease with Pesco, one of our great local manufacturing, oil and gas manufacturing companies here. And they occupied that facility until the early part of 2019. And of course, we've been trying to find new tenants since that time. We actually had one ready to go. We were negotiating in the final throes of lease negotiations, and we ended up, COVID hit, if you've heard about that. And it ended up throwing that opportunity into a tailspin. So the facility has been vacant since that point. We're trying to find different opportunities to have that leased. Well, one of the big gaps for us up at the industrial park is the lack of natural gas. And so that's a big part of our request here. It's a total $3.5 million request. And what we would be doing with that funding is extending the New Mexico Gas company line that leaves off about 11 miles south of the facility off the La Plata Highway up to the industrial park, adding that piece of infrastructure to the facility, extending broadband. That was another gap that was listed. Pesco made the best of using that facility without having a real reliable broadband connection and without natural gas. Although they said one of the big detriments to that facility was, especially during the winter months, they were spending more in propane a month than they were in rent to us. And so having natural gas up there would be a huge benefit to being able to get a good tenant in there to continue the use of that facility. It's a great building. We would also be upgrading the lighting systems, making sure we're adding LED lights where we can, some of the electrical systems, making any necessary ADA upgrades, office finish upgrades, security upgrades, water system and fire protection upgrades, and mechanical systems. And like I said, that total would come to $3.5 million. In your packets, we've actually worked with a local architect at Rodell and Hummel to put together an opinion of probable cost to kind of show you what this looks like. Natural gas service and internet service, the broadband service, make up over $2 million of the $3.5 million that we'd be requesting. So a big chunk of the request. And so all the EDA funding, regardless of what bucket you're in, there is one caveat, and the big caveat, requires a 20% match. And so what if we were requesting $3.5 million, that would mean we'd have to come up with $700,000. So it's a pretty good chunk of change, obviously. But the return on investment, as you can see, would be quite phenomenal. It's not as good as the 100% bill grant, but we would end up with $2.8 million in federal funding to make these necessary upgrades. But you might recall last commission meeting, we received some really good news on some revenue we weren't expecting from settlement agreement with the New Mexico Tax and Rev. So staff would recommend that we utilize that funding that we weren't expecting to put forth as our match towards this unique grant opportunity and see if we're able to bring $3.5 million to the San Juan County Industrial Park Complex and make that a premier industrial space and continue many years of good manufacturing and/or potentially film opportunities up there, as you all could make the decision to locate our backlot up there a few meetings ago. So we have a lot of opportunity at the industrial park, and these major infrastructure improvements would be very beneficial to the long-term use and future of the park. So with that, I would stand for any questions you might have. And
this is just to apply.
Mr. Chairman, that's correct. We're asking for your approval to apply for the grant. But of course, to do so, we need to be able to show the 20% match commitment and source of that funding.
We can't just say show you later.
Although a lot of folks, Mr. Chairman, certainly see the county is, great credit risk and good faith lender. We probably need to show that we have some cash money in place.
So you stop handing out those IOUs.
That's right, yes.
Mr. Chair,
Are there any questions?
just a comment, about maybe 12 years ago, I was very active with Northwest COG, Council of Governments, and they kept, stressing that we need to do things regionally. And here I'm hearing that right now, how we're working with the Navajo Nation, the other tribes, the Ute Mountain, and also with the Tri-Cities, Farmington and Aztec and Muka. So it seems like it's come to pass to where, everyone's working together. So with this, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Economic Development Administration Adjustment Assistance Grant Submission.
Tongue twister. All right, having been moved and seconded, is there any further discussion?
Do we need to add that we're gonna get some money in the matching, or is that okay? We don't have to say that.
I think it's included in the application.
Okay, all right.
And we can ultimately, if this doesn't approve it, if we decide that we need to put that money somewhere else, we can always not approve the grant if we are awarded it, correct?
Mr. Chairman, that's absolutely correct. And we could be awarded less. So we're going to apply for 3.5 million. Say that, they might come back and say, well, we can approve half of that, so that will obviously reduce our match requirements.
Okay. Cool. All right, are there any other questions? Those in favor of submitting the application, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Not hearing any opposed, it passes unanimously. Brings us to item number 4 on our agenda, which is consideration for the 13th Amendment to the Intergovernmental Agreement for Detention Center Services presented by Daniel Webb. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. So it's that time of year where we are obligated by October 15th to provide the municipalities what the next coming year's per diem rates will be. And based on the formula that I don't know where it came from, I get asked every year. I don't know who came up with the formula, but it's would have been last year's total cost to operate the facility divided by the total number of bed days. And that calculation came out to $112.77. So that's up $5.05 from the current per diem rate of $107.72. So, if you look in here, you'll see that our budget, we came in not quite $1 million less than the previous year, but with a decrease of $943,877 compared to FY20 the previous year. And I will admit, in the staff meeting this morning, I tried to take credit for the just good budgeting, when in fact it was mainly due to our staffing struggles. So I'd like to take that off the table, Mike. I don't want credit for that. So anyhow, that's the new number to be presented to the municipalities is $112.77. Would ask that you would approve the 13th Amendment of the Intergovernmental Agreement for Detention Center Services.
How did the job fair go today?
Good. I think we ended up with a total of 10 job offers. Accepted, I should say.
Accepted offers. Yeah.
So,
outstanding.
yeah. So
You
conditional.
just mentioned your staffing woes, and I remembered that we were doing that today, so that's awesome.
In fact, we got next one coming up October 9th. We'll actually hold that in the lobby at the facility.
October 19th.
Oh, 19th, I'm sorry. It was a 9.
All right, does anybody have any questions that pertain to what's in front of us? Since I got us distracted. Not hearing any questions, I'll stand for a motion.
I move that we adopt the 13 minute to the intergovernmental agreement for the detention center services.
I'll second that.
Having been moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? Not hearing any, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Not hearing any opposition, I'll presume that it passed unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to say thank you to Commissioners Lanier, Portner, and Tonicini for coming up and inspecting the facility. There's still time. If I want to.
I attempted.
You did? Yeah, we just had a miscommunication. So,
Thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to a report from County Manager.
Mr. Chairman, I do not have a report for you tonight. But I can come up with something if you'd like.
All right, any reports from elected officials, department heads? Come on out. Welcome, Sue.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the Commission. Thank you for allowing me to come. I've been wanting to come since the end of June, but y'all been too busy. Busy. So I'm here to give you our very first fiscal year annual activities report for the mental wellness resource. And so I'll just go over the high points and let you look at it and ask me any questions afterwards. And this is just from when we opened, I believe, November 11th of 2020 to June 30th of 2021. And there is one typo that you'll see here soon. So we had 441 phone connections, and I think that was due mostly to COVID and people were afraid to come out. But that's where they called and said, hey, I need information on this, or my brother's got that, or my son, so people were just calling for resources. And we had 146 scheduled appointments. We had 131 walk-ins, which was really amazing during that time. I think people really wanted to get some help, and people just showed up. We did have emails. We did have a couple of no-shows, but all in all, the contacts were 778, which I think was pretty substantial for an 8-month period. Then we discovered that the top 5 encounters or needs were counseling services, both mental health and substance abuse. We had 105 of those where we actually counted making those connections to people. And then behind that was housing and homelessness. Homelessness is, as you all know, pretty big here. And then the third one was financial assistance, which only stands to reason considering the job loss and our low economic status here in the Four Corners. Then my typo is that we hired staff in 2021. That's not true. We hired staff in October of 2020. The Sheriff's Office Behavioral Health Deputy came on board in November. And as you know, he has been just so helpful and so great at making connections to all the people in need in the communities. We opened the Mental Wellness Resource Center at 814 West Maple. Some of you have been there, not all of you have, but I invite you all to come in. Our hours right now are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., open to the public at 9 o'clock. And let's see, we opened it November 11th or November 12th, and that was right around the whole fiasco with the elections and COVID hitting, and everything just went crazy, but we opened. So some of the collaborations that I want to add that this data collecting is just until June, and we did it all by hand. We've increased our collection methods. We're still doing it by hand, but only because it takes so long to get a database checked out and set up, and so we're still working on that. But our data collection has increased since June. We're adding more aggregate data. We've always done demographics, but I wasn't sure if you'd be interested in the demographics. So we are expanding our data collection efforts as we speak. But for this fiscal year 21, we the Mental Wellness Resource Center did a lot of collaborations, and the one thing I didn't count up until now is all the collaborations we did with the behavioral health providers. Because when somebody comes in and wants to connect with a mental health counselor or a substance abuse counselor, we don't automatically pick one. We ask them, where do you live? What kind of insurance do you have? Oh, you don't have insurance? Do you need us to help you get hooked up to insurance? What have you tried before? What's been successful? What have you struggled with? And then we tell them about all the providers that are available and line it up with their neighborhood and their transportation abilities. And we help them pick out. They choose the provider that they want. We don't. And then if they need help connecting to that provider, if they want to make an appointment right now, we will assist them. We will dial the number and get them on the phone and say, I have somebody who'd like to make an appointment, and we hand them the phone. We empower people to advocate for themselves. We don't do the work for them. Excuse me. So I didn't write down all the connections, but there were a lot of connections to the behavioral health providers that we did offer, and also medical providers and housing assistance providers, food providers, just anything anybody needed, we tried to connect them with. And now we are counting those encounters. And so we did a lot of collaborations between law enforcement on behalf of our clients. Many people had run-ins with the law, and without standing in between them and their probation officer, we just had them make a quick connection to their probation officer via the phone and say, hey, I'm over at the Mental Wellness Resource Center. I just want to let you know that I'm applying for this or I'm applying for that. So their POs and the court officers know that they're connecting with us and that they are making efforts. There's been times when somebody gets out of jail and he's homeless and he's struggling between, I need a place to stay right now, but I've got to go see my probation officer. And so we'll get the probation officer on the phone and say, hey, so-and-so's here, and they've got an appointment with you, but we're also trying to get them set up with the PATH or someplace. Do you want them to come to you right now, or do you want us to finish this? Just so they're aware. And so we've had pretty good collaborations with the courts.
The probation office seemed to be open and
yes,
and excited about
yes. They're very pleased that when some of their clients are working with us. And then with the sheriff's office or sheriff behavioral health sheriff office deputy, his activities were great. He's actually collaborated with the Navajo Nation Behavioral Health, with Navajo Nation Law Enforcement on behalf of common clients that they have, and we'll work with the Navajo Nation Police Department to help people either get to the Navajo Nation Behavioral Health Services or bring them here, depending on what that person wants. But they're all aware of what's going on and that we're available. Let's see. We did, with help from the San Juan, moving on to collaboration with strategic partners, we did 10 of the Bridging the Gap videos, which Commissioner Fortner knows very well. She was in one of them. And with a lot of the other providers in the area. And that seemed to be a very popular thing. It kept people connected. It gave them something to watch. It gave them ideas on how to cope with my anxiety, my depression, my bipolar, whatever I'm going through, especially during this sad COVID season. A lot of people struggled, and behavioral health just went up the roof for so many people.
Which correlates to your top 5, which has 6.
Yes.
I'm glad that you included that 6.
Suicide prevention, yes. Yes, we've been working with the mental health task group of San Juan County and the schools and other agencies to bring about more awareness and make it easier to talk about suicide prevention. And when it does happen, what do we do next? And just to try and get ahead of it. So it is still a very big issue. I was personally active in a lot of different groups. You know, San Juan County has a plethora of community agencies, planning groups and everything. I counted at least seven monthly ones that I attended, probably more than that. We, in regards to the behavioral health gap analysis, we started some strategic planning groups. The first one was the homelessness strategic planning groups with our contracted facilitator, Jeff Kiley. And so we're probably a good 7 meetings in the bag with that right now. We're just recently combining our efforts with the CHAP group because so many of our partners are active in CHAP, and CHAP was very instrumental in moving a lot of programs along before, a lot of goals before. So we're just now recently partnering with them. But we did start the strategic homelessness group, and we're still trying to figure out the best way to go and how to do it, but we're going. And another group that I'm active in is I can't think of the name right now, but Special Considerations Group. I was invited to join that, and that's a group of law enforcement and first responders trying to figure out how do we handle this big responsibility we have of just taking care of everybody on the street and making sure everybody's safe and addressing all the issues that first responders and the police department have to deal with in regards to behavioral health issues. So we haven't come up with any solutions yet, but right now we're collecting data. We figure the first and most important thing is to collect data. So then when a solution comes down the pike, we have data to show what we need and how much of it we need. Let's see. So lots of meetings in the past 8 months, lots of collaboration. We did officially bring NAMI, which is National Alliance of Mental Illness, into San Juan County. I know several years ago, a group of people tried to bring that in, and that is a support program for people and their families who struggle with mental illness. And somebody wanted to start an affiliate here, and it didn't, for whatever reason, didn't happen. We reconnected with them, and we are an official I want to say B affiliate, which means we don't have to have insurance. We don't have to have a budget. Well, we do have a budget, but we don't have to have money. We are under the umbrella of the affiliate, the A affiliate in Albuquerque. So we're still learning all that, but we have a steering committee and we have officers now. So we are official in San Juan County, and I'm very, very pleased. And I want to thank everybody in that group that worked so hard to bring it here. With marketing and outreach, we have a billboard on County Road 350. It estimates it gets over 125,000 weekly impressions with people driving past back and forth. We did do 3 months of ads on KOB. We did radio interviews, and we still do, thanks to Devin keeping us in the loop with all the good opportunities for radio interviews, newspapers, all that. We do it every chance we get. And we have signage on the back of the Red Apple Transits, although I've noticed recently they switched them out, but we had signage, and I'm sure with Devin's help, we will still have signage. And I think that gets a lot of hits. We have people taking pictures and sending it to us and going, hey, that's you. And we have this great system of every time the behavioral health deputy or any police officers come into our office, they grab flyers and they send them out everywhere. And then we have a schedule where our peers go out and they have a map of where we've got the city and the county wallpapered with our flyers. For training, we all participated in crisis prevention and safety training, which we're learning now is instrumental to be able to work with the clients, some of the clients that we get. It's safety training and crisis prevention is so important. We've learned trial by fire, how important it is. So all the staff has been through that. 2 of our peer mentors have completed the motivational interviewing, which is kind of what I demonstrated earlier, where we don't tell people what to do. We ask them what they've tried, and they become the authors of their own fate, and they tell us what they need and what they're willing to do. And one of our peers completed the presumptive eligibility determiner, which means she can enroll people for Medicaid at the detention center. Not yet out here, but at the detention center, which is good. We can help out there. And 2 of our mentors have completed the certified peer support training, which is a 40-hour training. And they both are going to stand for testing. Well, it didn't happen in August. It got canceled, so they moved it to September. So they will test for that. And of course, challenges. COVID challenged us in so many ways, as it has everybody else. And I think those were our biggest obstacles. And I want to blame COVID for everything, all my problems. I just want to blame COVID. And I know it's important to be able to pivot and move around it and do the work just because of COVID or in spite of COVID. So we do that. But some of the biggest challenges we've come up against besides COVID is the homelessness, the lack of, and homelessness, just we don't have a 24/7 shelter here, and we really need it. Another is the housing stock. Housing is very, very expensive here, especially for the wages that people make. We're a service industry, and wages don't match the housing prices, and there's not enough single unit houses in San Juan County. And so, we're working on that. And there's not enough behavioral health providers, which we all know, and that is a nationwide phenomenon, not just San Juan County, not just New Mexico, but it's a nationwide phenomenon. And we're working on it. We're doing our very best to create situations where people will want to come to San Juan County and work with us. And of course, everybody struggles with finances. So, especially with COVID, job layoffs and everything. So those are the community challenges that we've come upon, the biggest ones. And so that's all I have to offer. So I stand for any questions you might have.
Mr. Chair, did I read that somebody from your center helped a person that was stranded by the hospital?
I have, yes, and I do. One thing I wanted to end this with, and we'll talk about that, is I have stories, just real quick synopsis for all of you. And I added the last one. I cheated. I put her on that, the very last story. And yes, she did come. I came into work at 7:45 that morning, and she was on the street corner in her wheelchair, crying for help. And so we took her in and got her dry, helped her use the restroom, and got her fed, got her some coffee, got her calmed down, and proceeded to find out what she needed. And we helped her.
That was very compassionate. God bless you for that.
It's what we do. It's what we have to do. That's why we're here. But thank you. I appreciate it, Commissioner. Any other questions?
I guess I was just thinking, we didn't get as much of a robust ribbon cutting as we wanted. Is there an opportunity that maybe we could do that to just get the word out there, a little bit more publicity about it? Because we've had the opportunity to tell people. And, it takes a while for the word to get out there, but just maybe another opportunity to say, hey, we're here.
Be the first annual.
I was just going to say, Mr.
Our anniversary?
Mr. Reporter, that'd be a great idea, for November. What are you doing November 12th?
Hey.
Be the 1 year mark.
We have a great parking lot. Yes, that's a wonderful idea.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you for letting me do it. I love it.
Mr. Chair, if I could just quickly, I wanted to publicly extend kudos to our staff for what Commissioner Todashidi mentioned in helping to assist that individual in need and making sure they got the resources they needed. And then just most importantly, if you look how much we've accomplished, it wasn't that long ago that this previous county commission had authorized the funding for the gap analysis and of course got the recommendation back and presented that to the community. And one of the first recommendations was to hire a behavioral health services director to help coordinate these programs. We hired Sue. She's been on board now for almost 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And now look at the list of accomplishments and services that have been provided. And I should add, that's just in 10 short months. If you think about when we opened the Mental Wellness Resource Center, and without an impact to the general fund, we're utilizing the 2 big grants that we've received from the state of New Mexico to provide these services. So I think that's really important to share with the community that these services are being provided, and we've been able to find outside funding to do it. And course, we hope to continue to do that, but the reality is at some point we'll have to stand on our own, but we're working on developing a plan for that as well.
Yes.
And Sue should also mention that we are partaking in a state summit. She's going to be representing San Juan County along with Judge Gurley, Crystal Lawrence, who's the program director for District Court for D11, the Public Defender's Office, and I'm probably missing somebody else, but it's a pretty small team, but you may want to share with them it's in October.
It's in October in Santa Fe, and they will be focusing, from what I'm understanding in the videos that I've been receiving, we're doing like video trainings, is legal approaches and the court's handling of behavioral health cases, because behavioral health is so huge, and probably 85 to 90% of detention and prison occupants have behavioral health issues or substance abuse, which is part of behavioral health. And so we're looking for some solutions, some ways to divert, rearrange, do it in a more fair, humane, but publicly aware, so everybody's safe manner.
It's a conversation then, summit, is there presentations?
I'm going to go listen. I'm not presenting. So I'm sure that I haven't seen the agenda yet, but I'm sure there's going to be presentation, and they have been sending us pre-presentations of what other counties are doing and other programs that are happening nationwide to kind of prep us for this.
That's good because the New Mexico county's doing their individual Leo is speaking to the people.
Yeah. Mr. Chair and Commissioner Ford, I might just add that the state Supreme Court is actually putting this summit together. So it's being sponsored at the highest level of state judiciary. So it should be a great opportunity to listen, to learn, and probably to share some of the good work we've been doing with others in the state. We have a lot to share with others.
Yes, we do. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Are there any other reports from elected officials or department heads? We need to wait on that call? All right, we'll come back to him if he intended to speak. So that brings us to comments, input from the general public, limited to subjects the commission has not previously discussed or formal action has not been taken. No formal action will be taken at this meeting that relates to comments or input from the general public. Comments can be made in person or remotely by WebEx and are limited to 3 minutes during the meeting. It can also be mailed. Do we have any comments from the mail or on WebEx? Email, mail, Mr. Stark? No, Mr. Chair. Is there anybody here in person today that would like to address the commission? Step up. Just let the county clerk know your name, please.
Commissioners, good afternoon. My name is Lauren Bernelli. I am originally from Shiprock. I live right outside of Shiprock in a small community called Sedecon, which is Humpback. I was raised in the area. I now work with the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission. Our office has been involved in redistricting this year as well in the past 10 years. And our authorities have been given to us to do all the redistricting planning for the Navajo Nation in the states of New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah. And our efforts here in New Mexico have been interesting, to say the least. We've been trying to work with our county clerk here with respect to Senate Bill 304, the alignments of precinct boundaries to conform to chapter boundaries. And as we witnessed earlier, you passed Plan C. Our office did not have time to even look at Plan C. We knew there was Plan A and Plan B, which we were involved in the construction of overseeing those activities. The Navajo Nation, the internal working group in the Navajo Nation, took the position that we wanted to support Plan A, which lines up with the chapter boundaries very well. This information was conveyed to the county clerk, Several resolutions have been passed. Eastern Navajo Agency, which covers Herpano, Nayuzi, Lake Valley, part of Nashchiti, all passed a resolution wanting to go along with aligning precinct boundaries with chapter boundaries. With respect to Shiprock chapter passed a resolution supporting that. Sonosti, we're getting one from San Juan chapter, as well as Two Gray Hills. It's unfortunate that action was taken without the input of our office. We had hoped to really look at the plan more closely. We were able to do some shapefile analysis and looking at plans A, B, and C, and you'll see that plan C does not line up, and again, it's going to divide chapters, making it difficult for our Navajo voters to vote in chapter elections as well as state elections. I had to put this on record, and so we will probably pursue our complaint with the Secretary of State at this point. Thank you.
Have a good evening. Is there any other comments from the general public? Not seeing any, gets us to the end of comments. It looks like there is a need for a closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we go into closed session to discuss opioid litigation, P&M application for abandonment of the Four Corner Power Plant, and possible purchase of call stock water rights.
Is there a second?
Second.
Having been moved and seconded that we move into closed session, those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Not hearing any, I'll presume that it passed unanimously, and we will break out for closed session and return when we are done. Thank you.
Commissioner Sullivan, I'll call you on my cell phone. Closed session. Do we need to wait for Commissioner Tucci? I think she's working on it.
I think we have enough to,
Yeah.
we have a quorum, so. Move that we go back into regular session.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we go back into regular session. We did not discuss anything that was not listed in the prior motion. Closed session agenda. Yes, that's fine.
Oh, second, sorry.
Been moved and seconded that we move back into the regular meeting. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. We're back in regular session. Having exhausted the agenda, I'll declare the meeting adjourned.
Right. Yes, Peter?